Did you wanna do a sequel to The Bodyguard
Yeah,
with Princess
we
Diana?
were gonna do it, yeah. That
That
was
sounds unbelievable idea.
it was right, and you know who was so important in that process was Sarah Ferguson, who coulda easily said, "Well, Kev, I'm a princess too." She
Right.
didn't. She was an incredibly cool woman. She said, "I will put you with Diana." When Diana passed, about a year later, it leaked out that I had been prepping Bodyguard 2 with her. And
Whoa.
what happened was, the royal family, kind of, turned on me a little bit, and it was like, "No, that's not true. This is not," and it got actually kinda ugly. Um, and I said, "Well," and I let it go for a while. It just got uglier and uglier, and finally, I called up Sarah, and I said, "Sarah, you need to tell me who kind of leading the charge there on this thing." And I said, she goes, "No, no, no, Kev, you don't want to talk to them." I said, "Yes, I do." She said, "No, no, no, you don't want to talk." I said, "Yes, I do." And I called him up and I said, "Fuck, I'm telling you something. You stop. You need to stop because it is true. And if you don't stop, I'm going to start," because it was. And what had happened was I started talking to her through Sarah, and I said, "Look, Um, I'm gonna do Bodyguard 2, and I think I can build this around you. Would you be interested?" And she goes, "Yes." She goes, "My life's about to change." And I said, I didn't really go into depth with it, but I thought I understood what she's saying, and I'd like to kinda open up my life. I think that I would like to do this. And she was very sweet, and we talked, and the second time we talked, she said, "Is there gonna be a kissing scene?" And I said, "Do you want there to be one?" And she said, "Yeah," and I said, "Then we'll do that." And I wasn't gonna make the full romance about her, it was gonna be about this Asian woman, but there was gonna be a moment where we did, and she was so sweet about this, and she said, you know, I said that, "I'm gonna send you this movie, and I'm gonna make it just like Whitney, I'm gonna make it so you don't have to do all that much, but you're gonna be great." And she said, "I'd like that." And then we lost her. And she was gone. And I didn't kind of like, if I couldn't have done Bodyguard with Whitney, I don't think I was going to make it with anybody.
Would you have been the bodyguard to her as a princess? Would
No,
she
no. What it was so perfect. What happens is I go over to Hong Kong. There's a horse race. It turns out I'm talking to some woman when the start of the movie is, and I'm whispering sweet nothings to her, really sexy shit. And all of a sudden you pull back and you realize I'm talking to a horse. And what it is, true to character, he's not going to guard celebrities. There's a horse that's going to race from Kentucky. It's going to Hong Kong. He gets to Hong Kong. He's on a plane. Princess dies up front. Jesus Christ. Everybody has to wait for her to get off the plane. I'm noticing this young couple, this young girl about 18, and this young guy with her, and they go back in the bathroom and they fuck. And I'm watching that. And I'm thinking, gee, that's weird. But anyway, so now Di gets off the plane first. She goes into Hong Kong because she's going to this big race too. And I get off the plane. I meet my longtime friend who I worked with in the service. I'm hugging him, and off comes a plane, the same girl and this young guy, and it turns out it's its daughter. It also turns out it's her bodyguard. So she's fucking her bodyguard on the plane. I don't say anything, but I look at my friend, I look at her, and that night, as we go into Hong Kong and the great cities and this town he's living in, this great house, I look at this dude, and late at night, I go over and fire him. He goes, you're not even you don't even know this family. I know, but I'm fucking firing you. You're done." And of course, the young girl hates me. But Princess Di, I meet her the next day, essentially at a party, and I'm looking at her like everybody else. And she finally walks over and she goes, "I know who you are." And I said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" She goes, "I know you're here to watch over me." And I said, "No, I'm not actually. I'm watching over a horse." And because she just thought that I was. And so in the story, she had broken, with the royal family. But I will tell you one more sweet thing that I don't think is talking out of school at all. That was real. That was straight. And that movie, and by the way, I never made that movie because I could not replace Princess Di. So the idea is, well, it's such a good idea. Let's get this person to do it. It's the same thing as Bodyguard. I said, no, it was Whitney. So I'm a bit of a dope that way, not just going out because you could really back the truck up and make as much money as you want. But not me. I'm being like asshole dummy. And but here's a great story. About 12 years later, and it's wonderful, and it's not out of school. I'm in Scotland. I'm somewhere, and I get this call, and it says, William would like to see you, her son, and he's now a young man. So we meet, and we meet in a room. There's nobody in the room. The chairs are turned upside down on each other. You know what I'm talking about? A big room, and it's him and I. I kind of could have been meeting a gangster, like I want to explain something to you. What a moment. And he sits down across from me, incredibly a gentleman, and he's going through a rough moment right now. His wife right now, and so I think of him, and he sits down, and something drove him. He wanted to meet me. And we sat, and I sat across from him, and he looked at me, and he said, my mom fancied you. And it was the sweetest, gentlest thing. Not she lusted after you, not she wanted to have it, but he just, instead of him, he believed the story, and believe it or not, after the talk with the royal family, about 2 years later, the butler came out and said, yeah, that was the truth, what Kevin was saying. That she was going to do it. But William, so sweet, man.